Hi, I'm James from Soniccouture and I'm going to be showing you Flowstate. We wanted to design something mysterious, something that wasn't obvious what it did. We wanted to design something that would inspire you to have fun and to play around without falling into the usual tropes of programming that you might have, your usual habits. So we've come up with something very, very opaque. As you can see here, it's not at all clear what it does, and that's really the main idea. So the great thing about Flowstate is that we've designed it just to work with simple audio clips, just single samples. There's no multi-samples, there's no velocity layers. You can just kind of find any old bit of audio you've got, and it really is about you using your own audio. It does come with 100 presets and samples that give you a great starting point, but it's really about using your samples. This is the set of audio that comes with Flowstate. They're just a set of different waves. There's about 100 here, all sorts of stuff in here, but I'm going to use this stream recording. Quite literally a stream, and all we have to do is drag it here into the wave area of Flowstate. Now you hear that's mapped it across the keyboard, but what gets interesting is if you move the big dial in the center. You can hear it's bringing Flowstate brings a pitched element into our simple audio sample, which means you can turn it into an instrument and just play. Remember, this is just from one sample. Now, you'll have noticed across the top we've got these strange symbols. These are our 5 states, hence Flowstate. So each sample you drag in, each setup you do, can have 5 different states, and you can flick between these using these key switches down here. You can also, of course, use your mouse, but you can do a performance with the key switch, and Flowstate will morph between the different setups you have, and that's a cool effect. So let me show you that. So you see, you can work up a nice little kind of ambient jam quite quickly using these different states. So what is it doing? Let's take a look inside. Okay, so what is actually happening under the hood? Let's take a look at that. I'm going to use a recording here of a garden pond made with a hydrophone. Okay, now I've got the instrument in a init state, and if I click this here, I get into the editors. Now there's only 2 parts to the editors, Harmonic and Synth. And each state, each of the 5 states can have its own harmonic or synth setup. At the moment it's all set the same. So really the key to the Flowstate engine is the harmonic engine. Now we have 8 tuned formant filters. It's these that get very, very resonant when you move this purity slider, and that's what gives Flowstate its kind of characteristic pitched sound. So just to play it here. So you see, as I increase that, the resonance of the formant filters increases. I can also do it with my controller. So you can pick a frequency for each of these filters, but it is just one will be the fundamental. But it really is just a case of picking and editing and kind of tuning by ear something that works with each individual sample. Okay, let's say I like that setup. I would then store that by just clicking Alt on A. Okay. And then as you see, I've got A and B, so we've got 2 setups here. So I can then go to the B setup, which is in it. So I'm just going to do something quick with this, just to demonstrate. Okay, and I'm going to click B on that. So now with this slider, which is also mapped to the big dial, you can morph between those harmonic setups. With powerful results. You'll see this here. If you want to shift everything an octave down, you've got a switch to do that. And you'll notice we have this little mod slider here. Now these are all over this instrument and they will map that parameter to the big dial on the front. So at the moment you'll see purity, we could put that down to there, put this up on full so that when you crank the big dial, the purity goes with it. Or you could just invert that. So you might have purity set to an amount you like, and then when you turn the knob, it would reduce it. You also have a knob here which controls the lag time between the states. So that's quite important because that's a really big part of flow state. So to save a state, again, you alt click on it, and you do need to do that, otherwise you're going to lose the settings for your state when you move to a different one. So move to a different one and it's initted, as you see. So to demonstrate the morph lag, I can just play a key. And you hear it morph, and you hear it morph back again. I could set that really long. Okay, moving on to synth. Synth is much more conventional. You've got things like wave start time, which you can randomize. You've got a stereo width control here. You've got envelope controls, saturation. You've got a filter. This is a low pass filter. Again, you can map this to the map it to your main control. The same with the resonance. And we have an LFO. You can choose a bunch of different shapes and you can sync it or just have it in absolute time, which I've got at the moment. So there is one interesting thing about the one very cool thing about the LFO, which is that you can use it to modulate each one of these individual filters at once. So that's pretty cool. You do that using the Purity. I'm just going to try and bring back a bit of our... If I bring the speed down, you can hear what I mean. So that's moving the these harmonic filters. Now we've got a phase offset here, so you can offset each of the 8 filters. And you get quite musical patterns if you do that. If you click Alt, it will set it to 50%, and that will evenly space all the filter LFO phases, which is easier to hear than it is to explain. You can create some real kind of wave sequence type textures. Remember, this is all just from a single sample. So you might want to assign the LFO mod to your control. And bring in other controls. There's a lot of very powerful setups you can make, and again you would set up one for each state. So I would then just save that in this state and move to another setup, and I can have this set up very differently, different envelope, a completely different start time, so on and so forth, and I would save that, and so on and so forth, and you can click between the two, and they are now automatically mapped to these key switches. So I set that envelope very short. Okay, you can set them up as you like, and there are 5 of those to play with. At the bottom here, you'll have noticed on both editors you get a more detailed view of the waveform control. A few controls here. You can always audition the raw waveform just using a speaker. You can lock the waveform, which is really useful because if you do this, you can then go into the presets and you can select completely different presets, but the sample will persist. So you can just try out different setups. Now I can go to something else. And so on and so forth. So that's a nice feature. This is your factory set of waves here. These are the samples we've included with the instrument. There's quite a lot of interesting things here. There are samples from our other instruments, there are field recordings we've made, there are kind of bits and pieces, anything that worked really, and it's quite a nice selection to work with. You can set the sample to loop. you're not going to hear it there, but if you are making your own samples, it's quite nice if you just loop them first and trim them to the loop, and then you can have it loop within Flowstate. This is the map button, so when that's switched on, the sample will be pitched across the keyboard. You can switch it off, and it will play at the same pitch across the span. It has a pitch detection automatically built in, so when you drag something, you'll see it will have its own guess at the pitch. You might not like it. You can tune it yourself. You can come up and down in pitch, or you can just set it to middle C, which is sometimes more useful. But yeah, it will attempt to do the pitch. Now that's really all for the overview of the synthesis parameters. It's kind of simple and powerful at the same time. And finally, we have an effects section. Fairly straightforward. And the main thing to note about the effects is these are not part of the states. So the effects setup is global. We did try having it as part of the states, but you get a lot of clicks. It doesn't work particularly well when you're switching effects between states, so it wasn't really an option. So you have a global effect setup, which helps to unify the sound of the state quite nicely, and you get a big list of different effects that you can load into each slot. If you like, you switch them on and off. You've got Replica, you've got Psyche, loads of really cool NI effects that are in there now. Well worth playing with. But yes, that's quite straightforward, and you edit each effect here with the tabs. A few options just to move key switches up and down. You can put them up the top of the keyboard if that's what you prefer. Yeah, you can clear the user wave and so on and so forth, which is our user wave slot here. You don't have to select the user wave slot. If you drag, as you saw, if you drag in, it will automatically do that. But if you do want to clear it, there's an option to do it. Yeah, and that's really it. That's Flowstate. I don't want to get too deep into it because we want you to just play with it and experiment and see what happens. Okay, thanks.